So our role at Clean Energy Renewable Fuels, we produce, market, and distribute biomethane, primarily as a vehicle fuel through our parent company, Clean Energy. Clean Energy is the largest natural gas vehicle fuel provider in North America. We produce biomethane at 3 projects we've built ourselves, one in Dallas, one in Michigan, one in Tennessee. We'll go through those quickly. This is our facility in Texas. I think what's important to note about these projects is these are large scale. Moving fleet fueling to a sustainable path is a large-scale problem that needs large-scale solutions. One of the nice things about biomethane and the projects that we've been investing in is they are large-scale. This project in Dallas, we produce 60,000 gasoline gallon equivalents a day of renewable natural gas from this facility. It's a lot of fuel. You can fuel a lot of trucks with 60,000 gasoline gallon equivalents a day. We've built another in Michigan. This is a smaller landfill, so we get about 20,000 gasoline gallon equivalents a day of productive capacity out of this plant. And our third facility, it's actually, I need a more updated picture because we've now completed this facility. We've produced our first gas from it in March. We're now doing some of the final wrapping and bells and whistles on that, and expect to be producing gas at commercial scale in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're going to start out here at about 14,000 gasoline gallon equivalents a day, but this is a very large landfill taking a lot of waste. Over time, we should be able to see that number double or triple in production. So why do we want to put biomethane into vehicles? Well, we believe it's the best and highest use for the product. Once you go into the grid, there isn't any other alternative fuel out there that you can fuel an 18-wheeler, meet 100% of its fueling requirements, do it at a discount to diesel of $1 or more, and get a 90% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. There's nothing. So this is the only fuel that offers those kinds of advantages. It's the only fuel that we can put into the heavy-duty trucking sector, where we burn 25 billion gallons a year of petroleum fuel and diesel, and get that kind of an environmental advantage and do it cheaper than what people are paying today for diesel. So we're excited about this. We launched a branded biomethane vehicle fuel product last year we call Redeem. We started selling this in commercial scale last year. We sold 14 million gasoline gallon equivalents of Redeem. In 2013, we hope to double that this year. This fuel is sold to clean energy stations across California, CNG and LNG, vehicle fuel to our fleets at clean energy stations. So what's the catch? There's always a catch. The catch is the very thing that has driven the incredible growth in natural gas vehicle fuel use in this country, the very cheap price of natural gas, is a real problem if you're producing a product that is, by design, fungible with natural gas and identical, but costs more to produce. So this chart sort of lays that out. If you look at the Henry Hub price for natural gas since 2008, it's been around $4 on average. Our cost of production to produce biomethane from those plants I showed you, $5 to $8 an MMBTU. So very hard to achieve the first rule of business, which is to have your revenues exceed your expenses when you're producing something at $6 and selling it at $4. So how do we make this work? We have been cash flow positive at our business and our renewable fuel business ever since we got into the business. It's actually been very financially successful for us. How do we make that work? Well, fortunately, we have a number of tools we can use to make up the difference. And very important policy drivers. And one very simple way to look at this is, in order to make renewable natural gas work as a producer, you have to have some form of effective carbon pricing. There has to be some way of capturing an economic benefit of that 90% reduction in greenhouse gas benefit that we can provide by fueling with Redeem. If there's no way to turn that into dollars and cents, it becomes very difficult to do this. And fortunately, we've been able to do that. We have a number of programs. We have the Federal Renewable Fuel Standard, which we can generate valuable credits for every gallon of renewable natural gas we sell as fuel. In California, we have the Low Carbon Fuel Standard. We generate credits under that program, and we sell them to obligated parties that produce high carbon fuels. And that money enables us to make a profit on every MMBTU of biomethane we produce. So you can see here, if our cost of production or natural gas price, obviously our cost of production is higher. But once we generate these credits and sell these credits, we're able to get to an all-in value that exceeds our cost of production. One other thing I like to point out, because I think it's important to keep some perspective, that while we do have to get to a place where we can compete cost effectively against the price of conventional natural gas, when you compare renewable natural gas to diesel, it's still far cheaper than the price of diesel on an energy equivalent basis. The Renewable Fuel Standard, a federal program, as I mentioned, it's basically a requirement that the petroleum fuel sellers in this country increase the percentage of renewable fuel that they sell. And if they don't increase the percentage of renewable fuel they produce and sell, they got to buy credits from those that do produce it, like us. We create these credits, they're called RINs, very volatile, like most regulated commodities, bouncing all over the place. But the value, as you can see, anywhere from $5 an MMBtu to as high as $14 an MMBtu. Well, if you think back to my cost of production of $5 to $8, obviously we can make a lot of hay when the prices are good on RINs. There's a lot of regulatory uncertainty around the Renewable Fuel Standard. There probably always will be. It's a political animal, and the political process is inherently uncertain. We spend a lot of time with the government officials and elected officials and their staff explaining how this program is working and what ways it is incentivizing increasing production of low carbon or renewable fuels. A lot of changes coming in the near term, and I won't get into too much detail here, except to say that most of them are very positive for biomethane vehicle fuel, including the possibility that our product will be reclassified when we derive it from landfill gas as a cellulosic biofuel. And what that essentially means is the credit we generate will be even more valuable than it has historically been. The low carbon fuel standard, as I mentioned, in California, we produce an ultra low carbon fuel when we go to CNG or LNG from biomethane. You can see compressed natural gas from conventional natural gas does produce a nice carbon benefit, around 30%. When we go to one of our pathways from landfill gas to CNG, we can get down to a 90% benefit. When you go to dry anaerobic digestion, which is a means of capturing on-farm waste or other organic waste, it would just be venting methane to the atmosphere to decompose. When you go capture that product, that organic waste stream, you put it into a dry anaerobic digester and produce biomethane ultimately from it, you actually get a negative carbon footprint. Every time you fuel that truck, it's actually taking carbon in theory out of the air because you're combusting a methane that would otherwise have vented to atmosphere. Methane is a very potent greenhouse gas. Low carbon fuel standard also is confronting a time of some uncertainty, volatility in the credit prices. The Air Resources Board, I think, has done a really fantastic job with an incredibly complex rule and getting this rule going and making the program work, but there's a lot of legal challenges. As a result of some of those legal challenges, they're having to take some steps to reinitiate or reauthorize the rule, and they're making some changes. Exactly what changes they're making, no one knows yet. There have been some ideas floated and proposed, but a lot of details still to be filled in. That uncertainty obviously chills the market. And I think the key message here, that at least from a producer's perspective, is that they're never going to get it perfect. And what the market needs more than anything, in these regulated commodities, carbon credits, RINs, what the market needs more than anything is regulatory stability, not perfection. And so we're really hopeful that when the ARB gets through what they're doing right now, they'll just leave it alone for a little while, let it run its course and see how the market responds. I think that we'll figure out a way to make it work as long as they don't keep monkeying with it. A lot of issues that we're hoping will get resolved around creating additional liquidity, potential floor and ceiling prices for carbon credits into the LCFS. These things are going to be hugely important in terms of sending the right price signal to producers to get more renewable natural gas supply into the grid, more renewable natural gas supply out to fleets. You can see, as mentioned, there's been a lot of volatility in the carbon credit price. If you look at the chart, a couple of months ago, fourth quarter of this year, the price went from $80 a ton, really sort of fell out of bed, and it's gone down into the 20s, so 75 to 80% price reduction in a quarter, calendar quarter. And that's all 100% driven by regulatory uncertainty. Proposed rule changes go out, all the buyers step back from the market. They don't want to trade in something if they don't know exactly how much of it they need. And so this is the impact of some of that regulatory uncertainty I was describing. That's why it's so important from the producer's perspective, where your cost of production is the same basically every day, to try and see some more stability in the way that these programs are implemented. So how much of this can we do? We can do quite a lot. I mean, as I said last year, we did 14 million gallons of redeem in our first year, running about half a year. We look to double that number this year. When I look around at the entire industry, from operating projects today that have available biomethane to go to the vehicle fuel market, we can get to 177 million ethanol gallons. So it's basically 1.5 ethanol gallons for a gasoline gallon. The reason we speak in ethanol gallons is that's the language of the renewable fuel standard. Everything is measured in an ethanol gallon. But that's quite a significant amount of fuel. And when you consider the environmental advantages, the ability to take that much product at a price that's discounted to diesel and move it into the heavy-duty trucking sector is really a tremendous opportunity, and one that we really expect to see succeed with over the next coming years. I do think that in the near term, you'll probably see demand for biomethane outstrip supply. We've seen a lot of transit agencies that are issuing RFPs, for example, to get biomethane into their buses where they run natural gas bus fleets. There probably will be a time in the near future, I think, where there won't be a whole lot of biomethane available. Ideally, that sends the price signal out to producers so we can ramp up production, get new projects going, and get more product into the grid. And we can double, triple, quadruple that number of 177 million gallons relatively quickly. These projects can be done in 12 to 18 months. Most of the technology is readily available, well-tested stuff, and people have been running these projects for decades. So this can be done. We just need the right market opportunity to do it. Corporate sustainability, I think, will be a big driver. When you look at the natural gas fueling history, when clean energy got into business in mid-90s, really up until about 2005, the main driver for natural gas vehicle fuel was the environmental benefit. Reduction in particulate matter, NOx, and other emissions that were really significant when you fueled natural gas. That was the driver. The economics were better, but marginally so. Now, of course, the economics are much, much better because natural gas has become so much more abundant and less expensive on an energy equivalent basis. But we still expect the environmental friendliness of our fuel to be a huge driver, especially for fleets that have fleets and companies that have sustainability programs and goals. We have customers, for example, that have a very specific goal. They want to get to 25% carbon reduction in their operations by 2015. Well, through blending Redeem with conventional natural gas, we can actually hit that number exactly in their fleet operations, which is a really unique opportunity for them to invest just as much as they're prepared to invest in achieving carbon reduction. And they're also doing it far more cost effectively than a lot of the other things they've tried, like putting solar panels on every warehouse and buying wind power through the grid or whatever. This is actually a very cost-effective way for them to achieve the kind of carbon reductions that they're striving to achieve in their operations. So, as I mentioned, last year we launched Redeem. We did our first agreements with customers over a fixed term to supply the product. We got our 14 million gallons out and sold, which we were really happy with. This year on supply, we brought our third production facility online, and perhaps most importantly, we've now arranged to buy the biomethane that is being produced by 11 other landfill sites. And all of these projects are getting registered with the EPA and their Resources Board. We're going to start flowing all of the gas from these projects out to our customers and our stations in the coming 6 months. And it's going to really create a huge growth in the amount of product that we're able to offer and sell to our customers. So that's very exciting for us and really a huge milestone. And with that, I will wrap it up and take questions at the end. Thank you very much.